All right, so everyone's NPM audit should be done. Let's benefit the video, guys. And you should have got about 250 out of 255 fixed. Now, it didn't fix the remaining 5 because there are major version changes to fix it. So they're potentially breaking changes. That means potentially, if you update this, it might cause your project to break. Now, luckily, we did this at the very beginning of our project. So even if it does break something, we can easily fix it without having detrimental effects. But if you have a large project already, you want to be very careful with these types of fixes. Okay? So what we want to do first is it tells us, well, we could force it if we really wanted to, but we don't want to do that quite yet. Let's do an NPM audit and see what the actual problem is. I think it's probably the Webpack dev server, I believe. I could be wrong now. Let's find out. So NPM audit, just NPM audit, nothing else. Ah, it's this crap again. CSS. This is actually what's wrong with the current React starter that I haven't fixed yet. So you can see that this actually gives us the command to fix each one individually. Okay, so if we do --save-dev CSS loader at 2.1.1, which is a higher version of what we currently have, that will fix this issue, which is some denial of service issue. And then JS YAML, this freaking thing's always causing issues. I always see this one a lot pop up. It's actually a dependency of ESLint. So one thing to note here, one, these are both dev dependencies. So they're really, it's not that big of a deal if you didn't fix them. And if it's part of your dev dependencies, it's only used in development. It's not overly critical that you fix any of the dev dependency issues. However, we're at the beginning of our project. We'll just fix everything 100%. That way we start with 0 vulnerabilities. So we'll go ahead and take the easy road. Now that we've seen essentially what it's going to do, we'll do npm audit fix -- force. So npm audit fix -- force. It may not seem like a big deal right now, but don't ever start with this command. Well, if this fixes everything, I'm just going to run that every time. Don't do that. Right? Get yourself in a pickle doing that. Yeah, any npm command you force, it always tells you that. And it's not wrong. All right, and then after that's done, if you're still running, that's okay. I'm going to do npm audit one more time. Okay, found 0 vulnerabilities. We are all up to date. Okay, and usually it's pretty much that quote unquote easy to fix any vulnerabilities you run into. It's usually not that bad. Just kind of follow the steps it tells you in the messages. The majority of the time is it's just updating versions to newer versions where they fixed issues they found. When they first started doing this, it was not that easy to fix stuff. It's gotten a lot better over the past 6 months or so. Because NPM didn't always do this. This is actually a fairly new thing that it tells you about vulnerabilities and stuff. I personally liked living in ignorant bliss and not knowing what packages had vulnerabilities, but I can see the upside to being aware. So everyone good? Everybody vulnerable free? Okay, that's fine. You're still waiting for yours to finish. No big deal. While we're waiting for those to finish, let's create a couple files. So at some point in time, for one reason or another, sure, that was a good reason at the time, because there always is. It looks like the contents of this folder got copied and pasted, probably moved using the command line. And if you don't tell it to, when you copy a folder over and all of its contents, if you don't tell it to, it will not copy hidden files. How do we know something is a hidden file? Anybody know? Nope. I mean, you could, but there's a more direct way to tell. Nope. But the get-ignore is a hidden file, but how do we know that the get-ignore is a hidden file? The dot in front of it? There it is. Any file that starts with a period is automatically a hidden file. That's how all operating systems work that way, to the best of my knowledge. There might be some that don't, but the major ones do. Windows, Linux, OS, which is Linux-based. A dot at the beginning of a file name signifies it as a hidden file. So by default, when you copy a folder, it will not copy the hidden file. So we lost some of our hidden files, like our get-ignore, because there was one here. It just got lost. There is also another file called dot. I need you guys, and you guys should be creating this, dot babel rc. Actually, that might be wrong. Hold on. Because I think this might actually be using. Oh, no, that's right. Oh, this is old. All right, we're going to paste this into that.
It should be in the source folder.
The root directory. The root directory. Yeah. All right, so there's the code in Slack. You get a little ding with it. There you go. Just for you guys. Take care. Also, it's a good idea for Git. Always add an empty line at the end of all your files. Makes Git happy.
Sorry, can you clarify one more time that putting like the get-ignore and babel rc in the source src folder is the same as the root directory?
No, these are not in the src folder.
Oh, okay.
See how the arrow's pointing this way? The src folder is not expanded. Good, excellent clarification question though. Yeah, so all this stuff is in the root directory, sitting next to the source public and node modules. This stuff, none of this is inside of another folder. So once again, in this, when I say root directory, this is the location I'm talking about. Excellent clarification. You guys are like a right and a left-handed person sitting next to each other. Oh, you guys are doing it. All right. Man, how? I need to update this. This is way. Oh, yeah, it's still using Babel 7. Oh, Babel Core 6. Wow, yeah, this is way out of date. Somebody should keep this updated better. All right, and then we're going to make one more file. And we're going to say .eslint.json. Yes, lint RC. Sorry.
What does the RC stand for?
Man, I was just wondering that same thing. Really, configuration. I was joking. I don't know. Yeah, it's funny because I was actually with a part-time class. We were kind of doing a little bit more in depth of a NPM setup, and we were doing the Babel RC yesterday. And I even told them, I was like, "Oh, I need to look up what RC means." Still haven't done it. Don't have time for that. Someone can Google it real quick though and see what you can find, because it seems to be a theme in the configuration files.
It stands for the phrase "run commands."
Ah, okay. Babel run commands, ESLint run commands. All right, if they say so. And then here is the ESLint file. .ESLint run commands .json. I gotta say it now that I know it. Paste that in. Add message at channel. No, not at Caroline. At everybody. Didn't even work. Lame.
Is that the same file as the file in React Starter?
It's a little bit different. Don't copy that one. Yeah, this one's a little bit older. All right, everybody get those okay? All good?
Yeah.
All right, I think we're ready to test. And then once we get it tested, we will set up our project so we can use Sass as well. This branch isn't set up for Sass. It's all kinds of lame. Most of the time, we usually do a Node backend, so we don't. This branch hasn't been used as much, which is why it's sorely out of date. Need to fix it. All right, so what we're gonna do now is in your folder, the root directory, 2.19 wicked cells. You're gonna cross your fingers and your toes, and then we're gonna do npm start. And then we'll go to localhost 3000. Ta-da! Huh? Same thing, older version. I change it every couple times on the React Starter one.
It's fun.
Yeah, it does not have to use the Babel.
Great website.
Yeah, Babel's properly. BABGL.
All right, everything you need is on the front page.
Stop it.
What do you mean?
Sometimes I can't tell which one's in which folder.
How much did you crush your fingers for?
Depends on the day.
It's not very cute gaps.
Yeah.
All right, how'd everybody fare? Everybody good?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a miracle. I mean, I'm surprised mine even worked. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of a cluster when we got here. All right, so the last thing we want to do is we want to set it up so we can use Sass files. So to set up Sass files is pretty easy. We just need to npm install two things. and just, I believe it's SAS loader and node SAS. I believe they're two things, but I want to make sure, so I will go to Webpack's website. And go to their guides.
SAS loader, not SAS.
Yeah. Where'd you find that that quick? Better.
I use
The search bar?
yeah.
That's for sissies, man. Come on.
What?
I'd rather just keep looking through the website. Found it. So SAS loader, node SAS. Yep. Yeah. Hey, and just for the record, that's exactly what I said before I looked at the instructions. Just wanted to make sure. All right, so we're gonna be doing some configuration changes. So we'll go ahead and stop the server. So we'll say Control C. And then we're gonna do npm install --save -dev. This is a dev dependency. It's only for development purposes. And then we're going to do node-sas and sas-loader. And I'm going to verify that those are typed correctly. Sas-loader, node-sas. Node-sas. Okay. All right. So it should be just those two things. Once you figure out that, go ahead and hit enter. So that saves it as a dev dependency instead of a regular dependency. I'll show you. I'll show you in a second. Interesting, just a little quick history about SAS. We'll kind of talk more about it as we start to use it. But SAS is what looks like kind of CSS, but it has to be compiled into actual CSS before it can be ran in the browser. So whenever you're using something like SAS or less, or what's the other one? There's one more. SAS and less are the two kind of big ones. Those have to be compiled and built into actual CSS. Because your browser, once again, kind of like JSX and React, your browser can't read any of this crap. So these are just tools to help you write your CSS more efficiently, but it still ultimately has to be turned back into CSS. So for us to use SAS, it has to go through a SAS loader. And then the node SAS is because it uses Node. It uses a Node application to take your SAS file and turn it into actual CSS. All right. So now that we have that stuff, we have to do a little bit of configuration. I think all we got to do is update that. So as a quick side trip, when we do save-dev, that puts it into this list down here, dev dependencies. When we do a normal install, it puts it up in here. So this is what your project actually needs to run. Like when you bundle your code, there's going to be parts of these libraries in that code. This is what it takes for your project to work in a dev environment. This is not part of your actual project. This is just all the tools it takes to run your code in a dev environment and build your site at the end. Okay, so this is development stuff. This is actual stuff your site is utilizing. So if we needed jQuery, where would that go? Trick question, you don't install jQuery in a React project. No, but realistically, if we did install jQuery for whatever reason, it would be an actual dependency because your project is physically using jQuery. When you're writing your code, you're using the $ referring to jQuery. All right. So now we'll jump over to Webpack index.common.js. And then we're going to update this guy right here. All right. What is this? Regex. Have you guys done regex yet?
No.
Oh, well, never mind that. I'd ask you what we should put here if we want to put an optional S. The person that knew it was regex. What do I put here? I want an S that may or may not be here.
Is that a question mark?
It is a question mark. Did you Google that real quick?
It just looks like that.
Or because you were looking up here? Which would I would take that as a valid answer. That would be smart. So we're saying there may or may not be a S here. So it might either be SCSS or just CSS. And so what these tests do is they test as Webpack is going through and building your project, as it's reading each import statement you wrote. It's testing the file name against these regex tests. And depending on where it evaluates to true, it runs it through specific loaders. So any CSS file gets ran through a style loader and a CSS loader. We're going to update this to be an array. I don't know why it was done this way. Back when I didn't know anything, apparently. I'll make this into a list. And then we'll add a new one. That is our SAS-loader. And to write this actually a little bit more correctly, we could actually say parentheses C or a test. That way it could be SCSS, CSS, technically be ASS, SCSS, or SASS. So SAS. SAS is, so we're going to be using SCSS, which is a simpler version of SAS. It's like super cascade style sheet or some stupid thing like that. Let's see how they say to write it. Oh, they're boring. All right, so now that we have our SAS loader set up, huh? Oh, my Chrome is jumping. Oh, why is that jumping? What is it you need, Chrome? There we go. All right, so now we have that set up, we can test this. So we'll go over to our SRC folder. We'll go into Assets. We'll go to our app CSS, and we will rename the file. So we'll go to rename, and we'll do app.scss. All right, and then when we rename it, we could go to our index.js. I mean, we could go to components app.js. Just kidding. So app.js, and then change the import statement where we're importing app.css to app.scss. So as a warning, this might break on some Windows computers, but we'll fix it if it does. So let's test this out and see what we are dealing with. So npm start. You have to, if you didn't stop your server, you have to stop it and restart it. Okay, because we just changed a bunch of config stuff. Sweet. Anybody with Windows computers, it would blow up. Almost everybody. Or a couple of you? Yeah, that's what we're doing. The problem with the that's actually a different error. Let's go to the website. You were that period right there.
Yeah, it was gonna change.
I don't know. Still good.
Still
Save that.
Not
Yeah, I think the period was breaking. I'm trying to restart the server. Because a period actually means something different in regex.
I think you just need to know whatever company you're in.
Here we are. So you got the actual. Okay, no. Actually good. So let me look at your website comment. Good. Anybody else have any trouble?
With no camera.
Go to the terminal.
Dangerous.
Okay, so cool. That's it. Hopefully you can get your fix. Go back to your code editor. Go to config.
You cannot use a lot of it.
But then you can still print it off.
Then you cannot. Your computer.
Save that. Never start. All right. Anybody else? Make sure you saved it. Result style loader. Oh, style loader.
Still over there, but there's no function.
All right. Anybody else? So they must have fixed it. It used to be on Windows. There was a huge issue with the Node SAS thing. It used to just completely explode on Windows. Thank goodness it's fixed because I did not remember the fix off the top of my head. I mean, we could have figured it out because I fixed it before, but glad it worked out for everybody. So let's take a moment, and then we'll take a break. But let's take a moment to refactor our app SCSS to take advantage of what you can do with SAS. So just as a crash introductory course. Before we do that, though, I want to share a link with you guys. That is not what I wanted. Okay. That's not the right link. See how many more times I'll click it like an idiot. All right. So not right now, which I know I'm exercising futility by telling you not right now. But check that out. So if you If you scroll from the top of it to the bottom of it, it's not that long. Okay? All the main concepts of SAS right there. There's really not that much to it. Okay? If you know CSS already, you don't even have to know it perfectly, but if you have the general concept of how CSS works, learning SAS is really easy. It's a lot easier than learning like less. Less is a little bit more complicated. And on the surface, SAS is really easy, but it's actually really powerful and can get a little complicated too. But start learning the basics of it. It's really easy to use. And it's really cool. One thing that I really, really like about it, I'm going to show you guys right now when we refactor this, is that you can nest stuff. So for instance, this rule right here where we have all of our app stuff, and then we have .app and then .logo, we could actually take the .logo, cut that out, and paste it inside of here. All right, and that equivalates to the same CSS selector as .app space .logo. So it makes writing your CSS much shorter, but you get nice, well-built selectors that are chained on without you having to keep chaining these stupid selectors on everything. So we can do the same thing for the H1. We could take this selector, so any H1 inside of .app, paste that in there. That's about all we can really do here. Other things you can do with SAS that's really cool is you create variables. So you create variables that hold like colors or settings or whatever, and then you could use those variables throughout all your SAS. You could import them from other files, just like we kind of do like imports and exports with JavaScript. You could import variables from other files. So you can make kind of a base set of colors for your website and then just import them into all your other files. And that way, if you ever want to change your colors, there's one main file that houses all your colors. You change your colors there, updates the whole website automatically. Really nice. The nesting, though, is like, it's simple, but it's one of my favorite features of SAS, that you can nest stuff like this. Like, I hate writing regular CSS after I learned that this was a thing. All right, so if we save that, we should see on the React starter, it should look the same if my server was running. It is running. So the end result is the same. And if I actually inspect this, you can see here's the selector that was actually made, .app h1, which is, I had it manually written out that way before. But when you nest it, it creates the same thing without having to keep retyping .app all over the place. All right, you guys feel like you're SAS experts now?
Yeah.
There's really not that much more to it. You can nest stuff, and you can create variables. Pretty cool. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do called mix-ins and stuff like that. You can read about them.
Can you do if statements too with SAS or something like that?
Less is more like that. I don't know if SAS you can. I haven't delved that deep into it if you can. But less is a lot more like almost writing CSS JavaScript. Like it's very programmatical. You create a bunch of variables. If statements. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it.
Do you have the website for less?
I don't, but I can find it. I looked at it one time and said that looks complicated and never went back. There you go. Dang, the setup alone is intense. I just want to see like how you use it. Yeah, see, like here they have if statements.
What are these functions with again? What do you get those functions from?
What do you mean?
Like it's testing for each string is learn.
They must be built into less. I don't know. I've never really looked at less that much, other than like about as much as I've looked at it right now. I glanced at it a while back, but that's it. I glanced at it and saw it was a lot more complicated than SAS, and I went back to using SAS. All right. So everyone's good, right? Everyone's project is working. We're loading SAS. Nothing's blowing up. You guys good, or what are you guys doing back there?
Oh, we're just messing with the icon, the rotation.
Okay. That's normal. Everyone does that. All right. Speaking of which, let's update the actual tab icon, and then we'll take a break. So we need a nice little icon for our website. So I'll go to Google Images, and I'll say money icon. You guys can look up any icon you want. It doesn't really matter. 1000 by 1080 is not an icon.
What's the size of the icon generally?
Average like 120, like 125 or 128, 255, usually square, something like that. So I'll tell you about the icon that we're going to put in the browser tab. It really varies, but it could technically be actually really small, but traditionally, like so you see it run about 128, 255 square. I'm going to take this one right here that's 380 by 380. If you guys don't like the money theme, you guys can pick anything you want. Once you find an image you want, we're going to go to Save Image As. And then you're going to go to your desktop, LFC folder, find your Wicked Cells project. Mine's in a little bit different location. But once you get to your LFC folder, you should be able to find your 2.19 Wicked Cells. So we want to click on that. And then we want to go, once you find Wicked Cells, we'll go to Public. And then Dist. And we'll put it into the Dist folder. And make sure when you copy stuff off the internet, you get sometimes it'll have a really screwed up name. I got lucky. Mine was Money Icon. But, update the name to something that's a little bit, manageable and not like just a bunch of random numbers or anything. So once again, we want to put it in the public dist folder. You can see the old icon, the PHP-React PNG is there. And then we'll save it once you get it to the right place. Side note about pulling images off the internet. You have to be careful pulling images off the internet. For portfolio projects, practice projects, stuff where you're not making money or no one's making money, you're probably going to be okay. You make a website that marginally successful and you have some quasi well-known characters or something on there, probably going to be okay. You have a site that starts making a lot of money and you have Disney characters on there, your ass is getting sued. Like, no joke. And even just downloading images off the internet, you have to really be careful. There's a lot of free license stuff. So if you're making a site that's actually going to be in production and actually you're going to be generating any kind of revenue from it, you really got to be careful with the images you put on there. You can get in trouble for it. For your portfolio, don't stress over it. Okay? It's not that big a deal. You're not making money. Not that many people are going to see it. You'll be okay. But for a real world site, you got to take that kind of thing into consideration. Everybody find an icon? All right, so now what we'll do is we'll go to the public folder, index.html. And up at the top, we have /dist/php-react.png. We'll change that to match whatever your icon name was. So mine is money-icon.png. So I'll say money-icon.png. And then I'm also going to update the title to be Wicked Sales. And then I'm going to delete the PHP React PNG. Look at that beautiful 5-minute Photoshop job. Believe it or not, there was no React PHP logo on the internet. And if you find that one on there, someone stole it and I'm going for a lawsuit. All right. So do a quick test. Make sure that you pathed everything and got your image showing up. Where are we here? Refresh. You can see my icon changed. Might not be able to see what it is. You can see it's a green dot now. You can also see it says Wicked something. One of the biggest thing I see people do is always leave the React symbol and React starter in the tab. Take the 2 seconds to update that stuff on your final project. Like we're doing today, it should all be part of your project setup. You should be updating that stuff. You should update your README, update your NPM, your package JSON file. I know it feels like it takes a long time to do it because we're doing it as a class and we did a bunch of other stuff with it. But it actually, in reality, doesn't take that long to go through and do if you're just assign one person in the group. Hey, take 30 minutes, go through and update that stuff. It probably won't even take you the 30 minutes. I have to separate you two. I have to swap the corners here. That's okay. All right, everybody all good? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Huh? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to call that good for the client setup. So we're going to go ahead and add, commit, and push. And then create a pull request to our dev branch. And we'll say completed initial client setup and config. And then we go ahead and push, git push, origin, and setup. And then I'm going to use the URL that was so generously given to me here. I go to one of my gazillion. Have too many tabs open. It's stressing me out. All the things. All right, so I'll say initial client setup complete. And very importantly, make sure you change the branch, because by default, it's always going to set it to master. You can change the settings, but we're not going to do that. So client setup into dev. So initial client setup complete. And then we'll create the pull request. And this is a very good time to really be checking. You should be doing it every time. But this is one of the very important ones of checking your files changed. If your files changed is in the thousands, you screwed up. Thank you, Cody.
Been there.
We've all done it.
Yeah.
Okay? That means you committed your node modules folder. You would have known though, because as soon as you typed git commit, your browser would have started, or your terminal would have started scrolling for like 5 minutes with all the stuff that it committed. The best part is when you push it, you get a message back from GitHub saying, please don't do that.
Yeah. You know you're having a bad day when GitHub says you fucked up.
Yeah, don't do that, man. Don't do that. So looks good. I'm only seeing what I'm expecting to see, all the stuff that we did indeed change. I'm not seeing a node modules folder, which is excellent. I'm not seeing like a MySQL config file, also good. So I'll jump back over to conversation, and we're going to merge this. Normally, I will be leaving stuff for Dan to merge, but we're going to be building off of this. We need all this config set up for us to continue for the rest of the day. So we'll try and end at a point where, like Dan left some for me, I'll leave some for Dan. So you guys kind of see the real back and forth of how that would work. Unfortunately, we can't do that right this second, though. All right, so client setup. I am going to copy the URL. You guys don't need to do this part. I'm going to copy the URL for this pull request. I'm going to delete this branch. And then I'm going to go to my Meester task. And I say initial client setup complete. Pull request created. And then, although I shouldn't have done it myself, damn choice, pull request merged without incident. All right, I'm going to stop the time. Took us an hour and a half. All right. Complete. Hey, you just said an hour and a half. What do you mean 2 hours? Lies. Drag this over to done. Sweet. And then right after we get back from break, we will start setting up our initial routing. See you guys back in a few.